West Ham Massive are pleased to support Irons Supporting Food Banks. They are a group of West Ham United fans and friends inspired by the work of other football fan food banks around the country. They collect food and cash donations for LINWHU Food Bank in Beckton, who supply 7 distribution centres in the borough 7 days a week and hand out several hundred 3-day emergency food packs every month to families in need. They are also working with other groups to improve conditions for vulnerable adults and children in the Newham and Essex communities. They are supported in their efforts by West Ham United, the WHU Foundation, LS185, London Legacy Development Corporation, Newham Council, Barking and Dagenham Council, the Met Police, Spire London East Hospital, and a large number of West Ham and football fans. You can help by making a donation to their Just Giving page, the link for which you will find in the description section of the video details of this stream on YouTube. Thank you for your support. Come on, you Irons. Yeah, it would help if I pressed that button, wouldn't it? But there you go. I can edit this bit out. Doesn't matter. They'll never know. Right. Welcome to the West Ham Massive. Thank you for joining me. And as it says there, please don't forget to like, comment on, and share this stream to your social media platforms. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so already. And we are forging away along. Last I looked, we were on 84 subscribers. Who'd have thought it? Please don't forget, as well as that, to hit the bell icon, and you will be alerted as soon as there are any content that is added to the channel. And as always, ladies and gentlemen, we thank you very much indeed for your support in this matter. We are here to discuss the goings-on at the LNER Stadium. Yeah, it's named after a train company, ladies and gentlemen. It used to be Sincil Bank, but then obviously sponsorship gets in the way. Sincil Bank, whatever. We played Lincoln City in fairly inclement conditions, I think it's fair to say. Storm Agnes, I believe they said it was. And I was on a stream a little bit earlier with Charlie Walsh and Ray over on Hammer's Chat Patreons, 2 Spanners, 1 Hammer. And I sort of made the comment about storms. Whose idea was it to name storms hurricanes? Who came up with that idea? Who came up with the idea? And why are they always such shit names? Actually, I probably should have, before I let that out, if adult language offends, do not watch this. There, I got that out of the way. Whoever decided to sort of name it, and why are there always shit names that you give to hurricanes, storms? And why is it just hurricanes and storms and things like that? They don't name earthquakes, do they? You know, that's a bit of a strange one. One to think about. Anyway, they were the officials last night at Sincil Bank, the LNER Stadium. Call it what you want. And I'll come to the comments. I can see you're all chipping away there. It was a very disappointing thing for me was the fact that it wasn't on the tap. And even when you looked on some less orthodox routes, you know, your ITVs, your BBCs, your Sky Sports, TNT Sports, even going on YouTube, whatever, it was just nowhere to be seen. But there was clearly cameras there because now you can see that there's footage of the game. So it's not like there was no cameras there. It's just that for whatever reason, we couldn't see it. That's another story. We discussed this on the Hammers Chat, 2 Spanners, 1 Hammers Patreon's podcast a short time ago, Charlie, Ray and I. But anyway, it was very disappointing. So we had to sort of make do with radio commentary. Now, I don't know about you guys, whether you listen to it or whether you sort of like picked up the newspaper or whatever you do to get your news source, probably going on your phone these days, isn't it? Let's be honest. And you obviously found out that we scraped through 1-0. It's a Thomas Soucek goal that was the difference between the two teams on the night. But I was listening to it, and I've got to say, and I don't think it was just the fact that the conditions were what they were. I think that we were very lucky to get away with it. I'll be brutally honest. I mean, they had a goal disallowed, right? Now, there was no VAR. I don't know how. I haven't seen the disallowed goal at this stage. I have to say, the only thing I've really concentrated on was the goal that Thomas Soucek got. Good corner from Benny, it has to be said. But yeah, it was a disappointing night for me in terms of what I witnessed and how the commentary came over on the radio. It seemed to suggest that there wasn't a great deal between the teams, and let's be completely honest, that should be a concern. I think that a team that's assembled, a Premier League team that's assembled two whole divisions above the team we faced. Yes, they had home advantage. Yes, there was weather that was a little bit of a leveler, shall we say. But be that as it may, probably our bench would cost more than what their entire first team cost by an absolute country mile. So the fact that we've laboured through was quite disappointing. The other thing that was quite disappointing for me, and I don't know about you guys, and again, just get it into the live chat and we'll pick through it. Was the team selection? It was very. It's very David Moyes. Let's be completely honest about it. It wasn't really a shock. I was, as you guys that would have seen the preview, I was sort of banging the drum and saying, well, why don't we play a George Earthy? Or why don't we play an Ollie Skulls? Or why don't we play a Divine Mubama? This is an ample opportunity. And do you know what? Even one of them, starting, I'd have been quite happy with. None of them did. None of them did. Very, very disappointed with that. I'm obviously a very keen advocate of youth being promoted, as I think most West Ham fans of my vintage probably are. So yeah, that was very disappointing. I think that the performance wasn't the best from how it came across on the radio. The goal, yeah, great. It's a set piece goal again, fantastic, because obviously there was a period of time, a lot of last season, where our set pieces we couldn't score for. Our set piece game had gone to shit. Let's be completely honest about it. So the fact that our set piece game is getting back on track is very pleasing. But surely we're better than that, aren't we? Surely we're not just a set piece team. We need a set piece to be the difference maker between us and a team two divisions down. Very disappointing for me. However, those of you that joined us, I did a very impromptu watch along for the draw, which followed the conclusion of the Newcastle Manchester City game, which Newcastle obviously won 1-0. I just sort of said, I'll tell you what, I'll do a watch along for the draw. Very impromptu. And of course, until the final whistle went, I wasn't totally sure whether it was going to happen because, of course, if Lincoln had got an equaliser, it then goes to penalties. And then obviously it's one of those you might as well toss a coin. But we got through, did the what's name. And do you know what? It's really funny because I did a poll. And there's actually a poll running on this stream. If you're watching this on YouTube, if you're watching this on Twitter, jump across to the YouTube channel and do a vote on the poll. I haven't looked. I don't know how it's running at the minute, but have a look. There's a poll there, and it relates to obviously our opponents who will be in the fourth round, which I'm sure you probably know by now is Arsenal Football Club. And obviously, there's a little bit of a connection from the sense that who's in their ranks? Well, yes, of course, it's Declan Rice, isn't it? Our former captain. Obviously, he will possibly. I don't think it's a given that he will start. I mean, obviously, he came off injured in the North London derby at the weekend. I don't think it's going to keep him out for any length of time. So it might just be a case of, will Arteta put out a full strength 11? Maybe he will, maybe he won't. But I've put a little poll, and I'm being a bit mischievous, but I am genuinely curious. If he plays, or more to the point, the question is framed, are you hoping that Declan Rice plays in the Carabao Cup fourth round match at the London Stadium? And you have one of four possible answers, and they are: yes, I want to applaud him; yes, I want to boo him; no, as our chances of winning are better; or Declan who They're your 4 choices. So if you're watching on YouTube, then you've got the poll there. If you're watching on Twitter or if you're watching on Facebook, get across to the YouTube channel, stick a vote in. Every vote counts. Your say is important to us, and we'll get into it a little bit down the track. But yeah, Declan Rice coming back to the London Stadium. That will be if he does play, if he doesn't. Either way, Arsenal will be a tough ask. But it's a one-off game. It's a one-off game. It's got to be decided on 90 minutes or penalties if that can't be the separator. There's no extra time on the night. So we could do it. I think we need to go into it with a positive mindset. We need to go into it with a positive mentality. I'm a big believer. Those of you guys that have seen me on broadcasts in the past, on whichever channel I've popped up on in the past couple of years since I've been doing this stuff, will know that I'm very much an advocate that if the mind can achieve what the mind can believe. So whatever it is, if you believe it, you can achieve it. What's the old saying that Henry Ford said? If you believe you can, if you believe you can't, either way you're right. Massively believe that. Massively believe that if you go into something with the positive mind frame that I'm going to do this, doesn't mean you're going to do it, but you put yourself in a much better position to achieve it. If you go into it thinking, well, I ain't going to fucking do that, well, guess what? You won't. You definitely won't. So I think that we've got every chance. We need to go into it with the right setup, with the right personnel. Bit of luck possibly might be needed on the night, but do you know what? Do I give us a chance against Arsenal? Yeah. Whether they've got Declan Rice playing or not, yeah, I do. And do you know what? For me, I've got no problem with Declan Rice. I would give him a decent reception. I'm not going to jump up and down. I'm not going to scream and shout like a schoolgirl. I'm not going to sort of like say, hooray! I'm just going to go, yep, well done. Welcome back, Declan. Right, now that's out of the way. You're just another player and we want to beat you. Thank you very much. And there you go. But I just find it odd because it's like we've got a history of giving good receptions to players that come back. And I remember, I think it was the first time, it might have been the second, I don't know, time that Rio Ferdinand came back to Upton Park with Leeds United and he scored a goal. I think it was a header from memory. He scored a goal and there were people in the West Ham section of the Upton Park that actually stood up and gave him a clap. It wasn't sort of like, yeah, sort of thing. It was a polite round of applause sort of thing. Now, I would argue that Rio Ferdinand in a West Ham shirt was nowhere near what Declan Rice offered to West Ham in a claret and blue shirt. So, yeah, I don't have a problem with it myself. I can understand people that have a different point of view. I'm not saying they're wrong. I'm not saying I'm right. But I just think that it's very much a personal choice. It's very much a personal choice. I don't think there's a right or wrong answer to it, to be perfectly honest with you. Let's get into the comments. So Happy Hammerette says she's here. And she may well be. I'm going to rattle through these comments. Nice to see a few of you in. Larry, hope you are well. I have got here a cheeky bottle of Amstel. I'm not planning on driving tonight, and I'm probably not going to be needing to drive until tomorrow afternoon. And it's only a little bottle, 300 mils, 4.1%. So I think I'm good. Don't think that the boys in blue are gonna pull me over. Now let's see who we got. Oh, look, ladies and gentlemen. He is conspicuous by his absence, my brother, but he's in the live chat. He's had a hard day at work, bless him. He couldn't face coming in. I don't think he was very happy with the result yesterday. In fact, I know he wasn't. I saw the messages, but it is what it is. There we go. Larry saying hello. Larry, yeah, the grandson. Larry, my man across the pond. He's making a name for himself. He's connecting with people. Is my brother. Mavropanos is a great name for a storm. Storm Mavropanos. It doesn't exactly trip off the tongue, Happy. And you've got this weird thing that, so last night was this Storm Agnes, right? So the next time that the Met Office or whoever, I think it's the Met Office, decide to name a storm, number one, it's going to be the letter B that it will start with. And it will change genders from what I understand. So it's going to go from a female name to a male name. So I turned around and said, well, the next one will be Storm Boris then, won't it? Right. Ings is awful. He could not finish a pint. Yeah. I don't think he's awful. I just don't think he stylistically fits with how we set up, mate. I think that if he was to be in a team where they played to his strengths, where he had a partner up top, because he's not really a lone striker, which is what we're trying to play him as, I think he'd be all right. I think that there's an argument to be said at the age he is, and obviously he had a bad injury when he was at Liverpool back in the day. I think he's probably just the other side of the hill and he's coming down as far as his career is concerned. That's not to say he couldn't go to another club, maybe another Premier League club, maybe a Fulham, for example. And I don't mean to be sort of condescending towards Fulham. I've got a great deal of time and respect for Fulham, but maybe a club like that, or maybe a Championship club. Maybe you could go back to Southampton and fire them sort of back into the Premier League. But he just doesn't fit with us. It's not. I'm not trying to be horrible. I've got nothing personal against Danny Ings, but I just don't think the piece of the jigsaw fits. How you doing, Joan? I saw you obviously earlier in the live chat on the Hammers Chat podcast, 2 Hispanas, 1 Hammer. And if you haven't subscribed to Hammers Chat, well, number one, I'd be very surprised because they've got, 35,000 subscribers or something like that. And last I looked, we had 84. So why would you be here and not there? Doesn't make sense to me. But if that is the case, please pop across there and feel free to give them a subscribe. Listening to Lincoln's announcers was terrible. Yeah, it was a little bit. They were a bit sort of one-sided, but that's usually the way. Seems the second string aren't really showing much. No, they're not, Ben. Not really. But I suppose like I say, you and I agree that it's one of those where we'd have been more enthused, I think. I'd admit, this is me. I can only speak for me, and I don't know anybody of you guys in the live chat that will agree or disagree. You might say you're talking absolute rot. I'm not saying I would have been happy with us going out. Don't misunderstand me when I say this. What I will say is I think I'd have been okay if Moyes had put out a team containing 1, 2, 3 young players like a George Earthy, like an Ollie Scarles, like a Divine Mubama, like a Lewis Orford, someone like that. If we'd have gone out and got beat, whether it would be in normal time or whether it would be on penalties, if I saw that Moyes was rolling the dice and he's trying to give the young players a little bit of game time, do you know what? I would actually go, yeah, I'm not happy we got beat, but I can see what he was trying to do. He was giving youth an opportunity, and actually I'm on board with that. So that wouldn't have been a problem for me. I couldn't give a shit, says Ken. If the number 41 plays in the game, it's all about what we do. I won't boo him. I won't clap him. All I'm interested in is us winning the tie and trying to win a trophy. That's fair. And as I say, I do appreciate what he did, and this is just me. I've got no problem, doing a polite round of applause. I'm not going to go over the top. And if someone decides to boo him, that's up to them. I think it's probably a bit over the top. That's me. I think if someone wanted to take the stance that you're taking and do neither, I think, yeah, okay, I get it. That's no problem. Ben was raging. No young lads given a chance. Was a very boring team. I'm in complete agreement, as you well know. That was pretty much me. 2-0 leads, I think, playing in yellow, first return to Upton Park. Yeah, that sounds familiar. I've got a vague recollection. Like I say, it was a corner header. Rio Ferdinand scored, and as I say, I remember it. But there was a good amount of people that clapped the goal against West Ham. Bizarre. Ben, I bet you were. You really followed the young guys and have done a few shows I watched. I've been following more in the last year. We are planning on doing some more, Ben and I. We do really want to try and maybe on the odd opportunity, maybe even go to a couple more games. I mean, we went to the cup final at the Emirates Stadium last season, excuse me. But I think it's something because I do think there's a little bit of and probably it's not a huge market, maybe, but I do think that there's a little gap in the YouTube genre, if you will, of channels focusing on the youth team, properly focusing on it. And Ben is a very passionate supporter of it, as am I. And I'd like to try and see if we can weave something into this West Ham fan YouTube channel called the West Ham Massive. Subscribe if you haven't. Plug. Anyway, Happy Hammerette. He was great for us, yeah. He's no longer with us, so I don't give a feck now about him. No respect there from me anymore. He is just another player of a completing club. I wonder, because obviously your father is going to be a little bit older than me, just a bit. But he would have remembered the 1975 FA Cup final when the late, great Bobby Moore was in the Fulham ranks. I'd be very interested to know. I'm pretty sure that he got a rousing. Maybe it's a slightly bad comparison because Bobby Moore obviously won a World Cup. Maybe that's, you get the point I'm trying to make though. There are players that we've given a respectful sort of welcome back, but then obviously, like I say, done that, move on. Jones says number 41 says he's North London now. He's kissing the red badge. Hope we win. Look, he wasn't a West Ham fan. He became a supporter of the club. He became a captain of the club. He has a lot of respect for the club, even to this day, I'm sure. What do you expect him to do? He's employed by them. And let's be honest about it, they're all mercenaries. I mean, I'm not being funny. Are we going to tar James Ward-Prowse with that particular brush? You know, James Ward-Prowse at Southampton was kissing the badge and doing all the rest of it, and now he's scoring goals for us, assists, running to the crowd, doing all the bits and pieces. We're all a little bit two-faced about it, aren't we? We're all a little bit hypocritical, I've got to be honest. And I include myself in that. This is not a criticism of any of you guys directly. I'm talking more generally. I think us football fans are very fickle beasts. Happy Hammerette. He chose to leave us and fair play. Well, we got 105 million quid for him. And I would argue that we actually are now a better team. Let's say we'd have kept him. Let's say we'd have kept him for another year and sold him in the summer that's coming. Right, we get roughly half the price. We get 50 million quid. Decent chunk of change, don't get me wrong. But it's not 105 million pounds, right? So that's the first thing. Second thing, I don't think that our midfield, with Soucek and Rice being the key components within it, I don't think would have looked as good as the midfield does now with Ward-Prowse and Alvarez as the key components in it. Just my opinion. So I think that the move actually worked for everybody. I think it worked for the player. I think it worked for the club. I think it's beneficial for all parties. No problem. Storm Benny won't really be on full on and hardly arrive on time. Jokes, I do like Benny though. He took a good corner. Listen, we all know that Benny can be a little bit flaky as far as his output's concerned, as far as his final decision is concerned. Sometimes it's a little bit hit and miss. But look, that was a good corner. It was obviously a key component of the goal yesterday, which separated us. You know, for me, Ben Rama, I like Ben Rama. Every time he comes onto the pitch, I want him to do well, but he is infuriating. I've got to agree with you. Kent comes in. I was at Lincoln, last night. I saw the photographs, mate. Ings looks devoid of confidence. Yeah, massively. The system kills him. Cornet and Kudus themselves. No harm last night. Played well, and Ben Johnson did, especially the second half. Again, another player that I want to do well, Ben Johnson, because obviously he's a youth prospect. He's homegrown talent. He hit the post yesterday with a strike. It's just one of those, though, isn't it, Ken? You know, he's comes at the end of his contract at the end of this season. He's going to go on a free unless we manage to shift him on for a nominal fee in the January transfer window. What are the chances of that? Probably not great. So he's probably going to go for nothing in the summer. He'll probably have a very good career, whether it's at a Premier League club, whether he maybe drops down to the Championship, whether he goes abroad. Who knows? All options are on the table. But Ben Johnson, again, real shame. I mean, what was it? 18 months or so ago, 2 years, whatever it was. We had him. He was the first choice number one. I mean, he was his first choice right back. Excuse me, not first choice number one. That's a different position. He was number two. That's his squad number, you know. And when he got that as a squad number, I did think, now that's usually a little bit of an indicator as to how the manager perceives. Because I think if you get given the number 39 shirt by the manager, unless you've chose it for some sort of superstitious reason or sentimental reason, whatever, I think if you get handed a shirt like that, it's like it probably indicates how the manager perceives you in the pecking order. To be given a number 2 shirt, I think it probably gave Ben Johnson an indicator of how David Moyes probably saw him at the time. But things have changed. Things have changed massively. How did Cornet perform? Any promising signs? Cappy's asking. Kent, I'd rather have not seen the youngsters, unfortunately, but get through. That's what it's all about, in my opinion. Look, like I say, I'm not saying I'd have been happy with going out, but I'd have been understanding. I'd have been absolutely fine with if I'd have seen a couple of youth players going out there and doing their thing. I'd have been all right, not a problem. Cornet has been a bust. It's very unfortunate. Ken Ings missed a sitter, and I feel for him. He gets such abuse. Again, I don't know about abuse. I've not seen abuse. I've not heard abuse in the games that I've been at. Maybe there is an element of that. I don't know. As I say, it's just unfortunately, very regretfully, the piece of the jigsaw doesn't quite fit, and that's as much a source of regret on Danny Ings as it is the club, because we've obviously spent a lot of money on him. We pay him a lot of money. I think it's 120 grand he gets a week, and we're not seeing value for money out of that. So from a business point of view, it's poor. From his point of view, from his career point of view, he's stagnating. He's going backwards. So nobody wins here. They really don't. Joan, Ings gets abuse because he either can't stay on side or finish. Sorry, but they are the facts. He definitely can finish, Larry. Or he used to be able to finish, but he's just not being played in the setup that has, over the course of his career, got the very best out of him. And it just leaves me in a position where I sort of sit there and go, who sanctioned the signing of Danny Ings knowing the way we play? Also, if you're Danny Ings, why did you sign for West Ham United knowing the way we set up? Was he given some assurance that we're going to centre our style of play to get the best out of you? Because if that conversation wasn't had, then I think that's very poor on the part of Danny Ings and Danny Ings' representatives, that conversation wasn't even had. And it's like, well, then that's on them, really. But if he was given some sort of assurance that, listen, we're going to play to your strengths, we're going to get the best out of you, and then that didn't happen, and David Moyes went back on some sort of inference that he gave, then that's on David Moyes. Happy Hammerette says it's frustrating not giving the youth a chance, especially Marshall and Mabama. Marshall, great player. Absolutely brilliant player. At that level, we'll see how he progresses, but I think he's got promise. Considering our two strikers aren't producing many goals, but I just hope they stay past Moyes and progress with us. Well, we'll see. Dave, welcome along. He says he remembers welcoming Ince back. Well, he took a few goes before it happened, didn't it? Because he left, and a couple of times Manchester United came back to Upton Park, and Paul Ince was injured for the first couple. So, but by the time he eventually came back, he got a warm reception, or very warm reception. From memory, that was the 2-2 draw where he scored the fucking last minute equaliser, though, wasn't it? Bastard. JWP is a Pompey fan by birth, I believe. I believe that. I know he's from Portsmouth, so I would suspect that he's a Portsmouth fan. So yeah, I mean, do the Southampton fans sort of hold that against James Ward-Prowse? Probably not. When players retire, it always feels different, but for respecting them as soon as they leave us is ludicrous, in my opinion. Again, I use the example of Rio Ferdinand, which is within my sort of lifetime. You know, what was that? Would have been 25 years ago. Yeah, something like that. And as I say, we showed him a great deal of credit and respect, and I don't think that he did anywhere near the amount of achievements in a claret and blue shirt as what Declan did. Just my opinion. Johnson had a strong 22, summer play, fell apart at the start of last season. Yep, all just went to pot, mate. Lawrence, I get your point, but he also saved us 3 points with the centre-half header off the line against Chelsea. Yes, a lot of people that don't remember that. That went under the radar. I just feel for him, but that's not practical, I know. No, listen, Joan, you're absolutely spot on to make that observation. You know, fundamentally, he's a striker and his job is to score goals. And I don't think you really remember strikers for defensive work, good though it may have been, and it might have prevented a goal, etc., etc. But fundamentally, a goal getter's got to get goals. Johnson is a much better left back than a right back for me. Do you know what? I've often thought that. I've often wondered whether that might be his strongest position. But I mean, and again, this is something to consider. Has his career been hindered by the fact that he is a Swiss Army knife of a squad player, in that he can play right back, he can play centre back, he can play defensive midfield, he can play as a right centre back in a back three, he can play as a right centre back in a back four, whatever. He can move around, he can shift around, and jack of all trades, master of none. Now, there's some players that have got that particular string to their bow, or strings to their bow, where it's quite difficult for you to sort of sit down and say what is their best position. And an example of that being James Milner, for example. I mean, he's played in a whole multitude of positions. He's played at fullback, he's played at central midfield, he's played right midfield, left midfield, whatever. He's been all over the show, and he's been around for donkey's years. He obviously came through at Leeds. He's played for Aston Villa. He's played for Newcastle United. He played for Liverpool. He's now at Brighton. And it's difficult to know what his... Phil Neville was another one. Phil Neville was another player that moved around, and he's that type of player. And I do wonder whether that's possibly harmed his career. That's an argument to be had, that he's one of these players that actually he needed to be put into a position, and that's your position. You are a right back, you are a left back, whatever it is, that is your position, and it doesn't really change unless, I don't know. Rani, hope you're well. Ings, it was an emergency signing. The team was never going to be built around him. Yes, very probably true. And is there a case to be said that even though really his only significant contribution for us was 2 goals against Nottingham Forest in a relegation battle last season in the Premier League, and I would argue that those 2 goals were the catalyst for us moving away from the wrong end of the table. Yes, we paid a lot of money as far as his contract and transfer fee and all the rest of it is concerned. What we're seeing now isn't good value for money, but given that he got those vital goals in that vital game, which was the spur for us to move away from the bottom 3 at that time, maybe it is a decent value for money signing after all, if you look at it from that angle. Don't know. Maybe I'm barking up the wrong tree. I'm just, thinking out loud, and it could be complete nonsense. As I say, it's up to you what you take out of it. Happy Hammerette says, Ings needs a confidence boost. I also feel sorry for him. Admire he wanted to stay and fight for his place, and we all know he's good when he's in form. Yeah. But I just think that, like I say, it's just, like I say, the piece of the jigsaw doesn't fit, and it's as much regrettable it is for the club as it is for us. Happy Cornet is quick, took his man down on the down the line, ran inside to keep players honest. He could really do well, fitness permitting, and that's the key thing, isn't it? It's fitness permitting. And I also do wonder whether David Moyes has maybe sort of lost a little bit of trust in him, and I'm not talking necessarily in terms of he doesn't think that he's a good player. I think just from the point of view that, is he going to break down? Is he a ticking time bomb? But Ken, what did Mubama and Ings link up like? Presuming they were up top together for a bit. That's Happy asking Kent. And she also says, I was so excited bringing Cornet in. Just can't believe how much we haven't seen him yet. Again, injuries, one of those. Do you think Johnson has suffered? Oh, now, I swear to God, I didn't see that, Joan. When I was opining about Johnson being moved around, I hadn't seen that. So obviously we're thinking along the same lines. I do wonder whether that's actually harmed his career. Rio left 23 years ago, just after Nigel Winterburn for winner at Leeds with a header. Yep, okay, that sounds about right. Joan, I do. His inconsistencies could well be through lack of game time and a decent run in games too. Arsenal wanted Johnson a few years back, didn't they? Possibly. It rings a bell. You might be right, Happy. You might be right. That game against Brighton last season is when Johnson went hugely downhill for me. Confidence was smashed, and I haven't seen him since. The 4-0 you're talking about, I take it. Yeah, that was pretty grim, to be honest. Remember when we signed Ings, we were in desperate need of a striker and delayed until the deadline. We were desperate. I do think that there is an argument to be said that he was a panic buy. I really do. I can understand that. But as I say, if you look at it and go, if he was the catalyst behind our upsurge in league form at that time by scoring the 2 goals against Nottingham Forest in what turned into a 4-0 win, and given that relegation from the Premier League would have not just cost us in lost revenue, probably a conservative estimate of about 150 to 180 million, I believe is what is often bandied around. But it also would have led to any decent player. I mean, Declan would have gone anyway, but we'd have got significantly less for him as a Championship club than we would have done as a Premier League club. And any other decent player that we would have had left at that point would have all pissed off. So, given that his contribution to us moving in the right direction was what it was, is there an argument to be said that actually the signing was value for money? I don't know. Like I say, viewed from that angle, that could be a narrative. Rob, hope you are well. Now, you was on a little bit earlier. Of course you are happy. You was on earlier with myself and Ray and Charlie, and you had a question, young man, didn't you? Now, I'd like you to just sort of do your little bits and pieces on the keyboard and fire it out here for the guys and girls that are still in the live chat listening to me rambling on incoherently with my bottle of Amstel, which I'm just going to take a sip of now, if you don't mind. Very nice. Ken comes in and he says, Obama and Ings, not much link up, happy. Divine helped a lot when he came on because he can run direct players. I'm worried he could leave because of lack of game time. Yes, I'd loan him if things continue. Do you know what? If my brother was here, and he may well still be in the live chat, I think he would be in full agreement with you on that last point about he could be off ski, and it might be that it would have been better to loan him rather than keep him. I mean, look, the game for me where it really sort of was glaringly obvious that something to me is amiss was the fact that back at Topola, we go 3-1 up, and you have another substitution to make, Mr. Moyes. You've got Mabama on the bench. Just sling him on. The game's won. Stick him on. What's the problem? Nope, didn't happen. This is also what I've been worried about. Needs to keep hold of the talent until Moyes goes and they can progress under another manager. Now, here's a question for the class. So let's just pretend for a moment you are a young, aspiring footballer, right? And we're going to have to say male for the purposes of this particular framing of the question. So happy pretend that you are a geezer, all right? Although some people think you are anyway. Anyway, did I say that out loud? That wasn't meant. We can edit that bit out and she'll never know I said it. Anyway, so you're a young, aspiring boy growing up, East London, Essex, maybe even a different part of London, maybe South London, maybe North London, maybe West London, who knows, maybe Berkshire, who cares? And West Ham are interested in you, but you're not a West Ham fan. You're not a dyed-in-the-wool West Ham fan. You're a fan of another club, right? Doesn't matter who. And West Ham are interested in signing you. And you look at the way that the youth players are not utilised by the current regime, right? Why would you sign for West Ham United? The only reason you could possibly sign for West Ham United is if you or your parents, your family, were West Ham nuts. Because if you weren't, you're never going to sign for West Ham because you are going to look at players under the current regime who have been in the youth team, who have had a great deal of promise, and for whatever reason, It just hasn't happened. Now, sometimes it has been the player. And one example of that is young Jamal Baptiste. I think that there's a case to say that that isn't all on Moyes. But I do think that there have been players that have come down the pipe who have had potential and have just not made it because they've been greeted with a brick wall, and the brick wall's name is David Moyes. Like I say, it's an interesting one. Now, Mr. Singleton, you've come in with your question. Do you think, and again, this is for you guys in the live chat, do you guys think that the revamped EFL trophy will help our under 21 players playing against the League One, League Two teams? It's an interesting question. Do I think it will help our under 21 players? I think potentially, yes. I think that the changes need to be given a chance to breathe. I think they need to be given a chance to. So I don't think it's really something you're going to know off of the back of 1 or 2 seasons. I think it's something that you're going to need to view over a much longer period of time, 5, 10 years, something along those lines. So I'm going to say and again, guys in the chat, feel free to jump in. I think that potentially yes, but I think we need to wait and see. That's just me. You guys might have a different take on it. So Rani comes back in, says, to be fair, aside from Luton, there's not many games that he could play in the Prem. Worrying not to more of him in the other games, though. I mean, look, for me, any youth player that's sitting on the bench and the game's won or lost and the game and the time's ticking, for me, fuck it, sling them on. What's the problem? If you're 3-0 up, you're 3-0 down, and there's 5-10 minutes left, the game's done. So introducing a youth player at that point becomes a complete irrelevance as far as the outcome of the match is concerned, but it's not irrelevant to that youth player who could get that extra little bit of experience by playing, whether it's at London Stadium, whether it's at Old Trafford, whether it's at Kenilworth Road, whatever. Why not? Why not? It's all about development for me. And, we've got that thing, and I bang on about it. We harp on about the Academy of Football. It's on the club website. It's on the carpet as the players come out the stadium. And for me, I just don't think we're living up to that tag. We produce players up to a point, and then it all just peters out. Anyway, there you go. What else we got? So just a few little back and forth. Done. Tick. Thank you very much. Taking being a West Ham fan out of it, under the current management, I wouldn't sign for the club. There you go. Because the pathway is stifled. It's all a fallacy unless you're an exceptional player like the number 41 was. Right. And again, this is something that sort of people bang on about David Moyes about, oh, well, he brought Wayne Rooney through. Okay. Take him to one side. Now try and name me, and bear in mind, David Moyes has been involved in Premier League football for 20 years, 20, 22 years, something like that. So, okay, take Wayne Rooney to one side. Can you name me 6 players, which is not a huge amount considering his tenure as a top flight manager, and we'll include sort of like his brief spell at places like was it Sociedad he went over in Spain? I think it was Sociedad. I might have misremembered that, but whatever. Any club that he's been at where he has brought a player through from the youth team, given them their debut, and they've had maybe at least 50 games under him in the first team. Yeah? I bet there's not many. Kind of worrying. Andy, hope you're well, mate. You can sign a youth player. You can sign as a youth player. Don't have to sign professional if football death is still there. There is an element of truth in that, I do believe. Robs, I think it's great for the under-21s progression. Playing against some real gritty men can only be good for them going forwards. As I say, I think it's something we need to really analyse over a period of time. I know that a lot of the League One, League Two teams, because I was a couple of weeks back, I was away with work, and one of the guys that was on this course was a Cambridge United fan, who obviously they play at that level. And I can tell you now, and this is only one fan of one club in that particular realm of league football, but he told me that his is not a unique viewpoint. They are not happy with the under 21 teams of Premier League clubs being parachuted into a competition that, from their point of view, they've actually got no right to be in. And to be fair, if I was in their position, do you know what? I'd probably think the same. In my opinion, it takes the risks. It takes the risks for Moyes playing in the Prem and important European games. Yep. Happy comes. Of course, it's a huge risk, but there's no other way to see if they have what it takes to step up, though. But Moyes definitely won't risk anything in his last season. Not that he did anyway. Well, you say his last season. It's his last season on his current deal, but who's to say that he's not going to be the manager next season? Who's to say that he's not going to get offered and accept an extended contract? Who knows? Who knows? And if that does happen, yeah, I think Divine Mubama and the youth players might as well just fuck off and play for Charlton or something like that. Moyes never takes a risk, never has, never will. He cannot change. Yeah, look, he's too far gone. He's too long in the tooth. You know, I know people sort of say about, oh yeah, they adapt, they learn, they evolve. No, I'm sorry. I think when you get to a certain stage in your development, a certain stage in your career, you are what you are. Good, bad, or indifferent. I agree matchday involvement is really important. Even just being a non-playing sub has value. No chance in Premier League minutes in the fixtures yet, though. No, I, I think that, yeah, to a point, just being on the bench a couple of times. But I think once you've been on the bench a couple of times as a youth player, so let's say you have your first involvement as a first team squad member and you sit on the bench and you don't come on. Yes, I think you get a level of experience there. But I think once you've done that maybe half a dozen times, I think that that if you keep turning up, not getting on, not getting on, not getting on, I think that then starts to wear a bit thin for me. I think that at some point you need to be chucked in and see whether you can do it. I believe the number 41 wouldn't be at the level he is now if our current manager was his manager his time at West Ham. Pellegrini must take the credit for sticking number 41. I think you'll find. There you go. Little slip there at the end. You're not supposed to say the R word. Safe, boring approach got us a trophy though. Yes, it did. It did. That has to be bared in mind. So, and it was a great day, that one in Prague. What's your thoughts on Ben Johnson might now be offered a contract? Is that right? Now that one's escaped me. I've got to say, Rob. Depends upon which way No, do you know what? I think it's one of those. A year ago, I might have said, yeah, go on then. Now I think a parting of the ways is actually inevitable. And B, I actually think that for both parties, I think a clean break is probably the best thing as far as I'm concerned. That's just me. That's just me. Anyway, I've been rabbiting on for nearly 50 minutes. Okay. Now, we was actually supposed to be talking about Lincoln. There was very little that I could really talk about, but in terms of that, because a lot of I'd not really seen a lot of the footage. I could probably give you, and to be honest, I actually got a few little factoids to sort of bring up. I mean, look, I had this all prepared, I had it all there ready to go, and then I started rabbiting, and nearly 50 minutes later, I thought, oh shit, I haven't done any of these. So if anyone is interested in anything like what was the starting lineup, there they are for both teams. What were the subs? There they are for both teams. I don't just sort of press buttons. I do a bit of sort of few little bits and pieces in the background, ladies and gentlemen, just to sort of give you a little bit of extra knowledge and excitement. You've got the momentum there. I mean, it looks a bit like what's them things? Not a Geiger counter. That's for radiation, isn't it? For earthquakes. Oh, what do they bloody call it? Oh, someone's going to jump in. What's the thing with the earthquakes? Not like I say, it's not a Geiger counter. It's oh, you got the fucking needle that goes back and forth. Oh, come on, help me out here, guys. What do they call it? What do they call it? Richter scale. Richter scale, isn't it? That's what you use to measure earthquakes. Is it a Richter scale? Yeah, that's the momentum. Obviously, the claret at the bottom is West Ham's momentum. The red at the top is Lincoln. Yeah, I mean, you know, shots there. You got the shots there. Obviously, where the ball is one Soucek got for his goal. You look there. There's an awful lot of shots that we let them have, that we allowed them to sort of get away. And when you look at the stats here, I mean, look, the possession. Yeah, we had the lion's share of it, but as I've always said, possession without penetration is pointless. If you've got the ball and you're just sort of like fizzy around in front of your own 18-yard box where your opposition sits back and lets you pass these pretty little triangles to bump your possession stats up, but you only get about 3 shots away on 90 minutes, that's pretty piss poor as far as I'm concerned. And if you look there, we only had 3 shots on target. They had 5 shots that they had that were on target. 5 block shots as well, ladies and gentlemen, and 5 shots that were off target. 15 shots in total. That's a lot. The expected goals, yeah, we edged that one, but then you'd really say that we should, as far as that's concerned. Passes, we again, no real shock there, is there? You know, we had more passes than them, but we had more possession than them. So again, that would kind of make more sense. That defensively, they were pretty useful as far as the stats were concerned. And then you look at duels and discipline. Not really much more to say as far as I'm concerned. You know, it was a very disappointing evening. It is what it is. Yes, Richter scale. I did get there eventually. Now, I knew you'd research it. I knew you would. So did he give a debut to all of these guys? No, Tom Davies he can't have done. Tom Davies, did he give Tom Davies his debut? The other ones I'll go with. He gave a debut to all of those guys and played them in 50 first team matches. I'm guessing you must have researched this, because I know you like to sort of get these little nuggets of information. What's this? X mention on Hammer's chat. Oh, yeah. Well, I'm Hammer's chat's resident slag, as I discovered earlier, and some of you are sitting there thinking, "You what?" Go and have a look on Hammer's chat. 2 spanners, 1 hammer. It will make sense. It's a little bit of an in joke, you know. They don't sort of regularly use me in that way. Well, not that I'm aware of anyway. Although that rag that Charlie put under my nose did smell a bit funny, and I did wake up several hours later with a bit of a headache. But that's another story. Anyway, I shouldn't joke about things like that, but I've got a very dark sense of humour. I thought it was written in the stars that youth players from 10 years ago was going to score against us. Yeah, the striker, wasn't it? Hakib. I did a thing on him as well, didn't I? This is the thing, we're getting old, isn't it? So Francis Jeffers, did he play 50 first team games under boys? Yeah. Again, player that it all went wrong. I've not researched it, just memory, maybe. Okay, I mean, listen, you could be right, but do you think there's too many more? I mean, I don't know. As I say, I'm not too sure that Tom Davies is one of them, but he could be. Do you know what? Tom Davies is the one I think is wrong. The other ones, I think yeah, okay. Those ones I'm like, I'm pretty sure Tom Davies made his debut for Everton after. Yeah. He made his debut for Everton in 2015, according to this. And David Moyes left there in 2013, didn't he? Because he went to Man United. So, yeah, no, he's say Tom Davies isn't one of them, but I think the others are good shouts. To be honest with you, Kent, I really do. Coleman, no, he bought Seamus Coleman in, didn't he, Rob? I'm sure didn't Seamus Coleman get bought into Everton? So I don't. Hang on, right? You got me at this now. Okay, I was going to finish, and then you buggers have started coming in with things that's just got me very, very curious. And now I'm like right, yeah, no, he never gave Seamus Coleman his debut. He bought him, but he bought him from Sligo Rovers. So, yeah, he did not. So Seamus Coleman is not on that list. Not on that list. Kudus crossing was awful last night. Is that true, Kent? Asks Rani Bubble. And Happy's asking, I woke up with just a headache. Well, now you mention it, my bum was a bit sore. Am I allowed to say that? I am, because it's my fucking channel. And I did say at the outset that if sort of swearing and naughtiness offends you, then quite honestly, fuck off. I am what I am. I don't mean any harm, though. I just like having a bit of a giggle. Coleman Shamrock Rovers. No, it was Sligo, according to what I've read. I've got it here. His youth career was at St Catherine's, and his senior career included a 3-year spell at Sligo Rovers, consisting of 56 appearances and 1 goal before he came to Everton in 2009. So he was a Moyes signing, but he wasn't given his debut by Moyes, so he doesn't count. I don't remember Tom Davies. Going to Google him. I think he's still there, or at least he was last year or so. Just a name I thought of. Yeah, no, that's fine, Rob. It was a good shout. To be honest, I didn't know if he'd come through the youth academy. I couldn't remember if he hadn't. To be honest, it's quite a long time ago when you look at it. It's like he made his debut for Everton in 2009. 2009. I mean, that's a lifetime ago. But there you go. Right. Okay. I did say earlier I was going to sod off. Hang on. Kent's pup too. Kudus crossing was good. Tried to create. Yeah, look, he was having a go. From what I understand, if the quality was off, it's a bit like Benny, isn't it? You know, at least he's having a go. So, well, at least you found it funny. As I say, look, this is what you're going to get with me. I am what I am. I like to have a little bit of a laugh. Sometimes what I say is a little bit close to the mark. Sometimes it's a little bit politically incorrect. No. I tell you what, there's a funny story actually. One of the first things that I did when I went to Lille, and I think I might have said this on the what's name, is they say that Englishmen abroad don't sample and absorb sort of foreign cultures and all the rest of it. Well, I'm not having that, because I went to Lille to watch the rugby last week, England versus Chile, and I'm not having that, because on the first night we were there, we absorbed French culture by going to an Irish bar and going to an Indian restaurant immediately thereafter. Sheffield United. Oh, is that where he's gone? Okay. I wasn't sure if he'd moved on. But yeah. So, right. I am now going to bugger off. Guys, it's been really good. It's been a good little laugh. I've had a bit of fun, and I hope you have too. As it says there, guys, please don't forget to like this stream. And if you're not watching on YouTube, if you wouldn't mind, before we shut this down, pop across to YouTube. If you're watching on Facebook or Twitter, just quickly nip across to YouTube and just click the thumbs up on it. Right now, that is totally free, doesn't cost you a penny. And you know what it does? It kickstarts the old YouTube algorithms and just pushes us a little bit, further into people's consciousness than would otherwise be the case. So if you can do that, that is fantastic. Also, make sure you subscribe to the YouTube channel. And when you hit subscribe, there's a little bell there you might notice. And make sure you click that bell and click all, which I'm not too sure that Happy knows how to do, because I've seen a few little things that she's missed. And I'm like, does she know what to do there? Might be wrong. It might be a rumor, but there you go. But yeah, hit that bell. And then as the new content is added, whether it be live, whether it be recorded and uploaded to the channel, you'll be notified. It will pop up on your phone and it will go, oh, look, the West Ham Massive have added something to the channel. As always, ladies and gentlemen, we thank you very much indeed for your support. Stay safe. Thanks for joining us. Come on, you Irons. And talking of support, please don't forget, you know the drill, guys. Irons Supporting Food Bank. Much love. The West Ham Massive are pleased to support Irons Supporting Food Banks. They are a group of West Ham United fans and friends inspired by the work of other football fan food banks around the country. They collect food and cash donations from LINWHU Food Bank in Beckton, who supply 7 distribution centres in the borough 7 days a week, and hand out several hundred 3-day emergency food packs every month to families in need. They are also working with other groups to improve conditions for vulnerable adults and children in the Newham and Essex communities. They are supported in their efforts by West Ham United, the WHU Foundation, LS185, London Legacy Development Corporation, Newham Council, Barking and Dagenham Council, the Met Police, Spire London East Hospital, and a large number of West Ham and football fans. You can help by making a donation to their Just Giving page, the link for which you will find in the description section of the video details of this stream on YouTube. Thank you for your support. Come on, you Iron.